It's been 2 weeks since deadly flooding swept through eastern Kentucky. In Perry County, two elementary schools were left severely damaged, obviously upending the school year for dozens of students. And almost a year later, students in Waverly, Tennessee, they're still dealing with the devastating effects of their flash flooding. Classes started back up last week, but even now the elementary school and junior high school still under construction. So that leaves students scattered across the county. Now, as both of these communities and others impacted by natural disasters struggle to recover, it's our children that could be having a hard time dealing with the trauma of a natural disaster. Dr. Jean Barrison with the Clay Center for Young Healthy Minds at Massachusetts General Hospital joins us now to help identify the signs that your child could be struggling. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with some of the things that we would look out for in our children who may have experienced a traumatic event like this.
Well, thanks for having me. The three main elements of trauma are remembering that as flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts, arousal or kind of panicky feelings, panic attacks, rapid heartbeat, jitteriness, and emotional numbing and social withdrawal. So they'll try to avoid thinking about or being around situations that remind them of that. Many of the young children will have depression, they'll have low energy, poor concentration, impaired school performance, irritability, clinginess. It really depends on the child and the age of the child. Younger children will present differently than, say, teenagers, but all these kids are going to have some of these problems, and some of them will be more oppositional and defiant, and some of them will be mute and withdrawn. Parents really know their kids best, so the idea is to kind of see what kind of changes are happening in your kids and be attentive to them.
Seems like a lot of times getting kids back into routine can often help, but if you think about what their routine would be during the school year is going to a school that may no longer exist, or maybe going to a classroom where they've lost classmates in that natural disaster. What do you do in circumstances like that?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if they're disrupted, remember, we've been through COVID, and parents need to control their own anxiety and their own schedules. Remember, put the life mask. It's like when the flight attendant says, if the pressure drops, put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then help the person next to you. So parents need to stay in control, have a plan, provide structure, guidance, frequent conversations, listen to the kids' worries, validate their feelings, and show them that we can manage this. We've been through hard times before, and we can manage these again. It's particularly difficult if there's a loss, because then there's depression, which involves low energy, guilt, profound guilt feelings, survivor's guilt. I mean, what did I do wrong? Am I to blame for this? So a lot of kids will blame themselves. And I think one of the things that parents can do that's very helpful is turn negativity into positivity. One is to remember the things that we've taken for granted. And second is to make social connections, to talk with friends, to talk with other family members, and to make a contribution, to give back to the families that are struggling and suffering. It's so helpful for kids and parents to make a contribution and to help feel that they're taking care of their community and the others who are maybe worse off than them.
And that makes a lot of sense. We do these things like routine, helping out, watching our kids and ourselves. I like that example of, the life mask on you first. At what point do we maybe need to seek professional help? Is there a point at which you should say, hey, we can't do this on our own?
You bet. And professional help is always advisable. So, for example, if your kid has a tremendous behavioral change, if they're really shutting down, if they're having troubles with friends, family, academics, or recreation, those are the big four areas, and they can't get out of it, an evaluation with a mental health professional is always valuable. Call your primary care pediatrician, get a referral, and see what an evaluation can do. And the same thing is true for adults. We've got our own problems. A mental health evaluation can be extraordinarily helpful because it can identify some things that we can do positively to kind of help get us out and get us unstuck.
What about for the next disaster? Because there's always one, right? How do we calm our anxiety with the next one that comes?
Well, one thing is to be prepared. And, again, reassure. We can reassure our kids that there's going to be more, that we'll be prepared for this. that we'll have a plan, that we're going to stick together. You know, be positive. I mean, we want our kids to face hardships with positives. The other thing is you know, family narratives are super important. You know, we've been through hard times before, so I would remind them, remember when the pipes broke in the basement, remember when the tree fell on the house, remember when we were out of our house for a week, you know, and we got through it. We can manage this. So that will give them a sense of optimism, and they'll also remember the family stories because they love hearing them, and it reminds them that we've been through this together and we can do it again.
Great information. Well, Dr. Jean Barrison, Executive Director with the Clay Center for Young Healthy Minds at Massachusetts General Hospital, thank you for that information.
Thanks for having me.